How's going guys, welcome to the channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Moka, Ruby and Akua. Part 2. If you wants to see awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. Issa had returned from his journey and ambled through the corridor. The shadows that casted onto the environment stirred before it morphed into a humanoid frame. The vampire lord sighed and turned his attention slightly to his side. What is it? Lady Gyakuro is scheming trouble. Naruto emerged from the darkness and followed his father from behind. Mori-chan pissed her off this morning. Based on Lady Gyakuro's personality, she will definitely take revenge against her. Issa smirked. Mori-chan. Where did that come from? The blonde arched a perplexed brow. What do you mean? Nothing. I'll handle Gyakuro. Anything else? Let's just say pandemonium strikes when we're not around. Wrong. Issa corrected. Pandemonium strikes when Gyakuro is around. I don't get it. If you dislike Lady Gyakuro. I don't dislike her. It's an arranged marriage. I can't do anything about it. Yes you can. Naruto was skeptic. Issa's shoulder slumped as he sighed. Fine. I do lust. Don't say it. Naruto clamped his ears shut. I don't want to hear it, lest it scars my life for the rest of eternity. The vampire lord rolled his eyes in annoyance. So what about you and Belial? Did you get him talking? Naruto scrutinized his father's facial features, profiling his emotions in the process. Yes. Apparently, his councils that he establishes are trying to get rid of his daughters. Those despicable ingrates believe that Morrigan and Lilith are the cause of apocalypse in hell. Well, paranoia is sometimes a bother. They believe the girls are Satan incarnations and want a piece of them. Complication, malfeasance, whatever. Indulge too much in corruptions and you get a migraine. Troublesome but sad. Hell has apocalypse. Naruto was dumbstruck. That's new. Apparently they do. When heaven and hell have petty fights, usually many innocent people die. Gotta wonder, what's the difference between both of them? You don't like either of them, do you? Naruto spoke solemnly as he walked through the hallway with his father. There were only the click-clack sound reverberating from their derby shoes and their succinct debate that echoes through the entire hall that presented the tranquility of their mood. Well, when you live for a couple of centuries and then witness a legion of seething hypocrites coming up with innovative ideas about ending conflicts that involve with mass genocide, you tend to detest them. The blonde shrugged. Fair enough. Still didn't explain why Belial is running away from his kingdom. You make stringent rules then you're expected to follow them by the letter. Issa sighed. It's a double-edged sword. He loves his daughter too much. Unfortunately, his councilmen are infuriated. Therefore, he gives his precious children to me and hide himself. Inevitably, the fourth hell is facing anarchy. Let us forget about that and concentrate on the situation at hand. 3 years ago, you told me that you wanted to intensify your training regiment in order to augment your strength by unspeakable folds. Am I correct? Yes. Naruto halted on his tracks and stared at his father curiously. What about it? You did give me hell back then. That's justified. That's why I'm handing you another proposal. Issa grinned. I'm going to raise the difficulty level. Whoa. The blonde raised a hand for a pause. Are you serious? Issa rolled his eyes. No, I'm being incredibly sarcastic. Naruto contemplated momentarily before he conceded. I'll do it. Good. The vampire lord bended down to meet his surrogate son's pair of cerulean eyes. But I must warn you, you haven't seen hell yet. In the training chamber, Issa sat in serenity on his throne and took a casual sip from his cup of wine. Naruto, this chamber is sealed with magic. It will suppress all of your demonic power into the core of your soul. You are now an ordinary human. Naruto flexed his wrist, checked the blade that was fastened on his back, and cracked his neck. I understand. This principle is to let you endure pain. By embracing pain, you will understand the concept of battle. By acknowledging pain, you will comprehend the manipulation of both horror and might. Remember, my son, suffering exists because hatred and weakness exist. The vampire lord presented a mat that protruded numerous spikes. From now on, you will do your push-ups with this. Naruto examined the spike mat uninterestedly. I will train you to heighten your senses. In desperate crisis, your senses are your tools for victory. You will be blindfolded throughout the training session. The butler, carrying a tray of black cloth, walked forward and displayed the item to Naruto. The blonde seized the fabric and wrapped it around his eyes. Without the aid of your regeneration abilities, you cannot afford to be injured. This training will teach you how to be nimble. You will learn to master the art of espionage and stealth. I will train you into a weapon of devastation. Issa snapped his fingers, and 5 demonic beasts manifested their grotesque forms before Naruto, surrounding him in a death trap. I have summoned the demons from hell to train you, Naruto. This is not a combat simulation. This is the real deal. If you die well, you die. Let us begin your training." Without hesitation, the blonde unsheathed his twin blades from his back, twirled both of his swords in proficient flexibility before gripping them in a firm clutch. Through the black cloth, a pair of vermilion glows emanated sinisterly from Naruto's eyes. "Let's go." Akua closed her eyes and exhaled a deep breath. To calm one's emotion is to control one's soul. To utilize Gaijin too, one must learn how to channel one's demonic energy effectively and release it on the spur of moment. Opening her crimson pair of eyes abruptly, Akua swung her arms in static blurs. Slashes of energy were launched at allocated directions, and they blitzed through the wooden pillars before severing them into halves. Akua massaged her wrist and sighed. "Still need a little more work. Oh, by the way, you can come out now." Akua emerged from the darkness as she placed a hand on her hip. "I'm here to settle our scores." Cracking her knuckles, the blonde vampire snarled. "Prepare to die." "Oh?" Akua grinned deviously. "Didn't Naruto mention something about harmony?" "Screw that." Kalua's eyes illuminated a sinister vermilion. "I have enough of you and your nonsense." "I smell jealousy." The eldest sister tilted her head upwards and whistled. "You too. Come out now." Bats flying from all directions swirled on the ceiling and slowly merged together to morph into the frame of Morgan Eansland. She sat on an unbroken pillar, cross-legged, and applauded with mock impress. "Nice. You smell me, even when I suppress my presence to the minimum. You sure know more than you show, Issa Shuzen, black devil of the underworld." Akua toyed with her black fringe and smirked. "Morgan Eansland. Your younger sister, Lilith Eansland, is actually an illusion. Or should I say a reciprocal of your power. You were born with overwhelming demonic energy within you. There was so much power stored within the core of your soul that it would become disastrous if nobody does something about it. Your adoptive father, Belial, solves your predicament by separating your powers. 1/3 into Belial himself. 1/3 stores safely inside you and the remaining portion into nothingness. However, that nothingness soon evolves with a conscience. That evolution is your little sister." Morgan smiled subtly. "You know too much, Akua." Kalua narrowed her eyes viciously at Morgan. "Speaking of which, I don't like you too. Finally showing your true self, Issa Shuzen. Like us, you don't want to share. You're selfish, just like Akua. Just like me." Morgan snickered when the blonde vampire blushed. "Shut up." "Oh? You're finally admitting to your lascivious desire." The succubus guffawed in victory. "Shut up, succubus." Kalua growled. "Wrong." Akua interjected. "Morgan is not really a succubus." "Well, she is but." Widening her eyes in shock, Kalua twirled around and faced her elder sister skeptically. "What are you talking about?" She's a crossbreed between a vampire and a succubus. A hybrid." Akua licked her lips. "That makes her even more powerful. However, it is a crime to unite both bloods together since it tarnishes the pride of the vampire ancestry. That makes you an abomination in the eyes of the ignorant. But to me you're just another formidable challenger. Still, that's the reason why your father's council despises you, am I right?" Morgan gradually descended onto the ground gracefully and smiled. Kalua, however, was petrified at her discovery of Morgan's secret identity. You're trying to restore your powers. That's why you're here, right?" The dark-haired vampire tilted her head sideways and stared at the insouciant Morgan laxly. "Correct. You're really smart, Akua. No wonder they call you the Black Devil. You're not just infamous for your strength, but your wittiness as well." The succubus sighed melodramatically. "There are only 3 ways for me to regain back all of my lost powers. When my body reaches maturity, I will be able to sustain what's rightfully mine. Firstly, I have to destroy both Lilith and my father to gain back my lost powers. That's the fastest way, but it is not impeccable. I will never resort in killing my sister just to gain back my power. So that option is out." Kalua stroked her chin in contemplation and nodded in understanding. "So, what's the other 2? "Second option too annoying. I will have to wait 100 years of hibernation just to regain all of my powers. Too long and I don't have the patience to wait for that long." Morgan's smirk widened. "The only plausible option that doesn't inflict any collateral damage or requires an eternity just to retrieve all of my lost powers is to find a mate whose strength doubles that of mine." Akua and Kalua were struck by realization as they understood Morgan's implication. "You mean?" "That's right. The late conqueror of hell, Kyubi no Yoko. I'm here for Naruto Shuzen, the reincarnation of that demonic beast." "You?" Kalua gritted her teeth in exasperation. "You're just using Nai-chan for your own ambition." The succubus shrugged nonchalantly. "Not really. He's kind, cute and almost perfect in many ways. An ideal mate. Almost irresistible. That's why I'm not going to let a treasure like Naruto slips off my hands that easily. Listen well and clear, girls, he's mine. Plain and simple." Kalua furrowed her brow in disgust. "You're too much. I won't forgive you for using Nai-chan like this. In the midst of rage, the blonde vampire dashed forward blindly and lashed her fist at Morgan. The succubus smirked triumphantly before performing a few acrobatic flips and delivered multiple kicks at Kalua, sending the blonde vampire soaring to the adjacent wall. Akua giggled in excitement and vanished into a static blur, only to reappear before Morgan with her palm on the succubus's stomach. No. What speed. Spontaneously, Morgan was thrown brutally onto the opposing wall by a powerful shockwave expelled from Akua's palm, and the succubus deformed a crater on the wall. Akua dusted her hands and smirked. You're right, Morgan. Naruto is a debonair individual. An ideal mate. He will be a perfect huss. The black-haired vampire paused in her speech when she heard sobs. Scanning her vicinity, Akua noted that the sniffs and cries were emitted from Kalua's crash site. The smoke stirred abruptly, and there stood Kalua with tears cascading the curvature of her reddened cheeks. I hate the both of you. Akua blinked dumbly. She's pulling a tantrum. But why? Suddenly, Kalua disappeared, leaving a trail of wind at her vacated spot. Switching her sights upwards, Akua saw Kalua descending at her with wrathful intent glowing from her eyes. I get it. Those tears of hers, it wasn't from despair. No. Those tears represent her resolve. It is her atonement for her imminent sins. She is going to become utterly merciless in her killings. She has finally made the decision to decapitate her opponent without hesitation. What a paradox. And to think that Naranai believes she has the purest soul amongst us. Heh. The blonde vampire spat at her eldest sister and stormed her foot on her. Akua evaded the assault, but the aftershock winded her. Clutching her midriff, Akua grinned haughtily. Kalua-chan, this is totally unexpected. Your strength is crazy. I hope you haven't forgotten about me, Akua-chan. Morgan animated her frame behind a startled Akua. The black-haired vampire leaped away, but she was unable to avoid a few slashes that embedded on her arms. Akua landed on the other side of the chamber and panted tediously. Assaying her injuries, Akua licked the dripping blood from her arm and smirked. I was careless. You caught me from behind. But that won't happen twice. Oh, don't forget about her. Akua pointed a finger beside Morgan, and the succubus swiftly ducked from a spinning kick delivered by Kalua. The blonde vampire unleashed a barrage of powerful punches and kicks before her last strike broke through Morgan's defense. The succubus winced in agony as her arms hurt from the devastating assault before she was forced to skid backwards. What ridiculous strength. And to think she is capable of such monster strength. Akua is fast and lethal, but Kalua is quick and strong. Scary, what a scary combination. And to think that their brother is stronger than them combined, how intriguing. Payback time. Akua materialized behind Morgan and shot a kick at the succubus's waist. Adroitly, Morgan had already anticipated the assault and defended the strike by hoisting her leg up in midair for defense. During the chaotic collision from their berserk clashes, Kalua dropped in between them with a violent opposition and joined the rivalry. Sidestepping from an attempted slash, Naruto swung his blade vertically upwards, successfully cleaving the demon into halves. Swerving his attention to the roar of another approaching demon, the blonde dashed forward, jumped to the sky and landed behind the vile creature. The demon convulsed slightly before vaporizing into bloody mist. Sheathing his blade in style, Naruto stifled his labored breath and turned his attention at his father with a calm composure. They're dead. What's next? Issa clapped and more demons came into existence. You've just eradicated 400 demons from hell. Good job. You have 600 more to go. Just bring them all here. Why? The vampire lord arched a brow. It will be a waste of time killing 100 of them at a time. Just do it. Issa smirked. Very well. But the snap of his fingers, a horde of demons rose from the ground. Naruto merely licked his lips and twitched his fingers. Spreading his palm wide, azure flames ignited brilliantly. It's showtime. Hey. Kokoa-chan, have you seen Ani-sama? What are you doing? Moka stared at the strange scene before her. Kokoa, the boisterous child of the family, was having tea ceremony with Lilith at the main hall. I'm having tea party. Care to join? Kokoa took a sip from her cup of steaming beverage and sighed contently. Moka thought for a while and shrugged. I don't see why not. Hiya. Kalua pummeled the ground with a menacing fist, shaking the chamber with tremendous quakes. Akua did a few backflips to avoid the impact and dexterously swung her arms, discharging energized waves at her blonde sister. Morgan swept down from the sky and rammed Akua with a sudden burst of acceleration, knocking the black-haired vampire onto the ground before she ascended to the sky once more. Kalua had already dodged all of the dangerous projectiles from her elder sister and leaped to the sky. Morgan was flabbergasted when Kalua's speed increased dramatically. In a spur of moment, the blonde vampire was already behind the succubus. Losing any chance for defense, Morrigan was struck by a powerful kick from Kalua and she fell onto the ground, blasting another crater and explosion at its aftermath. Akua seized the opportunity and jumped to her feet before darting towards her blonde sister with vicious conviction. Everything in Akua's view was a blurry pause of motion as she ripped the fabric of time and disappeared in a blast of sonic shock. Oh no. I can't see her anymore. She's too fast. Gaijin 2. Jinsoku Ansatsu. Dimensional Blade. Swift Assassination. Akua had materialized her frame beside Kalua in a crouching stance and her arm, coated with lethal dose of malevolent energy, was ready to strike. Shadow Blade. Unexpectedly, tendrils of black whips encompassed with dark aura thrust towards Akua and struck the oblivious dark-haired vampire. Kalua blinked as her cognition allowed her to perceive everything after her elder sister crashed at an adjacent wall. Remorselessly, Kalua snatched all of the launched whips before it could retract and pulled them with tremendous force. Morrigan yelped as she was thrown by Kalua's enormously enhanced strength and sailed through the atmosphere at the blonde vampire. With a clothesline from hell by Kalua, Morrigan slammed onto the unforgiving ground in a horrendous impact and thick flakes of dark smoke arose. Recovered from the previous assault, Akua blitzed away from the crumbly debris before reappearing behind her blonde sister. Without hesitation, the black-haired vampire sent a devastating kick at Kalua's waist, successfully hurling the blonde vampire soaring through another wall, and the outcome was disastrous as another defenseless wall was demolished. Akua smirked as she saw Morrigan lying beneath her feet, almost unconscious. The black-haired vampire gripped the succubus's throat and hoisted her in midair. Morrigan, look at you now. How pathetic. And to think that you're the crown princess of Belial's kingdom. How disappointing. Morrigan's lips simply crept up a weak smile. Gee gotcha soul cannon. The blinding light flashed and everything went white for Akua. In the ruined chamber lied 3 motionless girls who had reached their limits. They were completely exhausted and held no more energy to move. The outcome was a draw. Moka, Lilith and Cocoa sat in perfect tranquility as seemingly quakes shook the mansion horrifying, while the girls simply sipped their tea, completely nonchalant on the ordeal. When the shaking was over, Lilith placed her cup down gently on the saucer and smiled. Look like our sisters have finished their battle. Should we inform Naruto? The Redeed vampire giggled. Nah. He went training with daddy. Let's not disturb him. Okay. Disturb me? The 3 girls jolted in fright as they snapped their attention at their backs, only to see Naruto smiling at them. Wasp. The other girls fidgeted. Morini is fighting with your sisters in that chamber. Lilith pointed a shaky finger at the door beside them. Naruto widened his eyes in horror before he barged into the chamber. A few days later. Icing the onion in the kitchen, Naruto whistled delightfully as he placed the knife on his side and poured the content onto a bowl. Twirling the kitchen knife with utmost grace, Naruto dragged a carrot onto the chopping board and sliced it into perfect pieces in a blink of an eye. The blonde paused when he sensed a familiar disturbance within his sensory radar. Washing his hands from the tap water, Naruto twirled the faucet shut and turned his sights back to the doorway. Daikuro stood there apathetically, surveying Naruto's emotionless feature and growled. Where is my daughter? Who may you be asking, Lady Daikuro? Stop playing mind games with me, you filth. Where is Kalua? It has been 3 days, hasn't it? Naruto sighed. You didn't know what happened 3 days ago, huh? And even during these 3 days time span, you didn't bother to care what happened? I did not give you the permission to be snarky, abomination. Now tell me where my Kalua is. Daikuro growled. I need her. The blonde averted his eyes away. She's not well. Daikuro stormed her foot on the ground angrily. That useless girl. Never mind. I'll have others to do the job for me. Naruto shrugged as he returned to his workstation while Daikuro left the kitchen. And she didn't even bother to ask what happened to her own daughter. Tossing the bowl of diced onion and sliced carrot into the pot of soup along with a cup of vegetable stock, Naruto took a spoon and stirred the boiling liquid. Holding a tray of food, Naruto walked quietly into his bedroom and sighed when he noticed Moka, Lilith and Cocoa were giggling with a blaring tone on the corner of the room, while their elder sisters were asleep peacefully on his gigantic bed. Naruto whispered at his younger sisters. Hey, keep your volume down. Your sisters are sleeping. Okay. The girls chirped joyously and ran out of the room. Naruto shook his head and gently placed the tray on a table. The blonde exhaled a tired breath as he watched Akua, Morgan and Kalua sleeping peacefully on his gigantic bed. Their chests heaved occasionally, and Naruto heightened his apprehension of sound and detected the normalcy of their heartbeats. Sighing in relief, Naruto took the hot towel from the basin of steaming water and covered each of their foreheads. Approaching the tray of food, Naruto took the bowl of minestrone and sat beside the girls. Guess I've to feed the 3 of them again. The door creaked open and Akasha stepped in meekly. Naruto, can I have a word with you? Naruto nodded and obliged. Closing the door shut silently, Naruto switched his impassive side at Akasha and smiled. Yeah. I want to talk to you about Moka-chan. Yes. About her I was rude to her. And she's devastated. Naruto continued. She seems to hate you, but that's not really what she wants. She's waiting, you know. I know You feel upset, mostly disgraceful of your actions because you just realize that you have wronged your own daughter. You're impulsive and now you feel grief. Akasha sighed as she grimaced. You read me like a book. I'm your son. Naruto smiled. So, what do you need of me? Help you persuade her to forgive you? Yes. No. The blonde concluded, much to his mother's surprise. This is between you and Moka-chan. I cannot do anything to help if you're not willing to do something about it. The most I can do is to give her some words of advice. The rest is still up to you. I'm really sorry. I shouldn't hit her, I'm sorry. Well, don't tell me that. Tell her. Naruto pointed a finger behind Akasha and the pink-haired vampire elder swirled around, only to see a stiffened Moka hiding partially behind a wall. Oh Moka, I am sorry. Akasha dropped her head apologetically. Mommy? Naruto smiled at her mother and beckoned at her to move forward. I'll leave the two of you be. In return, Akasha nodded at her son with gratitude before she ambled towards Moka and embraced her firmly. Twirling the doorknob, Naruto entered his bedroom and was startled beyond cognition. Akua, Morgan and Kyubi were seating atop of his bed with smiles that scintillated mischief. Wagging a finger at Naruto, Akua winked playfully at her brother. Oh, you're such a nice cutie. You've done more than just a huge favor for Lady Akasha and little Moka-chan. I'm sure they'll be grateful to you. You heard our conversation. Wait. Stop. Hold on a sec. When are the three of you awake? Since last night. Morgan shrugged. But since you're so nice to us and even spoon-feed us delicious meals when we're unconscious, we just couldn't resist teasing you a bit. Couldn't resist teasing me? Naruto gaped in disbelief. I was worried for the three of you for 3 days and 3 nights, and that's your excuse. It's not really an excuse. The succubus corrected. It's a fact. Actually, we're ambivalent about the whole tricking you thingy, but we want to test your sincerity and devotion to us. Kyubi beamed. So. Naruto, for once, didn't smile. He retained an eerily calm composure and walked out of the chamber. Oops. Morgan covered her lips with her fingers. I think he's really angry. It's all your fault. Kyubi pointed an accusing finger at the succubus. My fault? Morgan arched a brow. If my memory serves me right, you suggested it. I was only joking. It was just a facetious statement. Kyubi pouted. And now Nai-chan is mad at us. Akua scratched her reddened cheeks with a finger and smiled. At least we know he cares for us deeply. All the more reason why I find him so desirable. Morgan smiled. Nai-chan doesn't belong to the two of you. Akua and Morgan simply stuck their tongues out at the blonde vampire. The night brought gentle breeze through the castle, and Naruto was seating solely on the rooftop, gazing at the moonlight shining like a lustrous pearl in the heavens, surrounded by its retinue of shimmering stars. The moon is huge today. Cocoa popped her heads out and hid behind the chimney, located directly behind her brother. You can come out now, Cocoa-chan. The red-eyed vampire chuckled in embarrassment and walked out from the shadows. You caught me again, Ani-chan. You're always poor at hiding your presence. Naruto patted the vacant spot beside him and smiled. Come, seat with me. Cocoa nodded and jumped onto the seat. Catching a glimpse of Cocoa's shivering frame and the thin fabric she's wearing, Naruto sighed and removed his jacket before draping it over his youngest sister's shoulder. It's cold outside. You should bring a sweater with you. I don't need sweater. Cocoa chirped. Because I know Ani-chan will take care of me. I can't take care of you forever. One day, you will grow up and you will have to learn to take care of yourself. Naruto explained while his eyes were fixated at the mesmerizing, yet soporific moonlight. No. The red-eyed vampire hugged her brother tightly on his waist. I want to marry Ani-chan when I grow up. Naruto chuckled with amusement. Cocoa-chan, your love for me is that of a family love. I'm sure when you grow up you will meet a man who you will truly love. These two loves are different. Why will it be different? I love Ani-chan, and I want to be with Ani-chan forever. We'll see. It's rather late now, isn't it? Time to go to bed. Naruto hoisted his sister up in a bridal-style fashion and leaped to the balcony. Cocoa nuzzled her cheeks on the blonde's chest and giggled. I want to sleep with Ani-chan. Trust me, in 10 years' time, you will know that sounds so wrong. I'll bring you to your room. You're a big girl now. Gotta learn to sleep alone. Cocoa merely whined. A few days later. The grand ceremony, to the vampire princesses, was a boring event, especially when Jayakura was the host. The four sisters wore exquisite dresses that matched their respective color. Akua's favorite color was obviously black and her dress reeked of inauspiciousness. Alua adorned herself with a alluring silver dress that displayed a sense of autocratic royalty, while Moka chose a violet dress that exhibited her elegance. Lastly, Cocoa wore a red dress that symbolized her purity. Their participation was that of reluctance, and they were genuinely surprised that Morgan and Lilith were invited. Naruto, typically, followed his father, the eulogizing emperor of the vampire kingdom, whenever there was a party, while maintaining a watchful eye on his sisters, lest a hazardous calamity intervened. The blonde was dressed with a white blazer and magenta-colored lapel, along with a black shirt underneath his jacket and dark pants with polished leather shoes. Sniffing the atmosphere, Naruto blanched. "Dad, something's not right here." "Yeah. What's with the sudden rise of attendances? The crowd is distasteful." Issa deadpanned. "I think Lady Gyakuro is up to something." "Well, it's her last day in the mansion. She's opting to be up to something." The vampire lord rolled his eyes. "It's only natural." Meanwhile, the four sisters were greeted by Morgan and Lilith. "Hello, we meet again." Morgan smirked. "You live here?" "We meet almost every day, unfortunately." Akua returned the smile. "Yes, rather unfortunate indeed." The succubus winked. "Oh? Aren't you Morgan Eansland?" A man stepped into the conversation and glared furiously at Morgan. "And you, Lilith Eansland? How dare you show yourself here? In this place? You, of no rank of nobility, shall not step into this sacred land." Lilith was sweating as she hid behind her elder sister, blatantly stupefied by the sudden appearance of the man. "Oh, Wani-chan." Morgan narrowed her eyes as she scowled viciously at the intruder. "Councilman, didn't know you will be here." "Hey look." The councilman of Belial's kingdom bellowed. "It's Morgan Eansland, an accursed abomination whose very existence ruined our kingdom, has dared to show herself here." The crowd stirred and Morgan beckoned Lilith to run away. The younger succubus was reluctant and refused to step away from her elder sister. Morgan had no choice but to push Lilith to Akua. She would be damned if she let her younger sister be refuted and condemned by the gathering councilman of her castle. "I was invited." "Invited?" Bemusing. "Madam Gyakuro, I believe an explanation is required." Gyakuro masqueraded a stunned expression as she blinked innocently at her guests. "My sincere apologies, gentlemen, but I have no idea whatsoever of this filth's existence in my party. This is unacceptable. I will get to the truth of all this. Tell me, wretched girl, who has the nerve to replicate my presence and forged a fake invitation letter to you? Or are you just a gatecrasher? Firstly, I was invited by you, you mad woman. And secondly, I don't give a damn about your stupid." Silence. Sickening plague. "Your likes are not welcome here." A plate of spaghetti was thrown brutally at Morgan's face and it shattered into pieces upon collision. The four vampire sisters gasped and Lilith cringed. Wiping the broken pieces of plate away from her face, the succubus growled. Her emerald pair of eyes was filled with contempt and animosity against the councilman that her hatred could triumph over their ludicrous umbrage. "That's it? That's all you got?" Morgan clenched her trembling fist as she gritted her teeth with resentment. "Why don't you give me your best shot? Go on. Do it." Barbarically, the councilmen used food as their weapons and threw at the succubus, while Gyakuro was smiling at her petty victory, watching how the baleful men humiliated Morgan brought her joy. They grabbed anything within their range and tossed it at a defenseless Morgan who chose not to retaliate. They didn't stop when the succubus collapsed onto the ground, coughing relentlessly while they continued their pernicious torture with nefarious joy. Lilith could only watch helplessly on the sideline. "I have enough of this. I just want to get away from his torment. Daddy, anybody please help me. I can't endure this treatment anymore. I know nobody is going to save me, not when Daddy is gone. But just somebody just help me." "Fuck off." "And Naruto?" Naruto stormed into the crowd and seized a table before slamming it onto one of the councilmen. Perceiving danger, Naruto grabbed the edge of a flying chair adroitly, halting its velocity and glared at the culprit. Some of the antagonists were quavering in fear while others stood firm. Simultaneously, they threw plates of food at a motionless Naruto. Within split seconds, the offending objects ignited into flames and swiftly turned to ashes. The blonde walked towards the retreating crowd, his eyes were glowing off an ominous crimson. One of the men charged forward with a war cry, but Naruto was calm. When the enemy was near, the blonde simply stepped onto his victim's foot, crushing his bone into bits in the process, and it earned Naruto a scream of agony from the writhing councilman. Another enemy lunged at Naruto and threw a fist forward. The blonde caught the assaulting punch agilely before cracking the councilman's wrist. In the spur of moment, Naruto had gripped the man's neck and strangled him in a chokehold, raising him in the air while eyeing him predatorily. Gyakuro stepped forward and was seething. "What absurdity. I did not give you any permission to harm my guest, you filth. Unhand my guest this instance." Without acknowledging Jaikuro's statement, Naruto threw the councilman away and the antagonist flew through the window. Naruto turned his attention back to Morgan and knelt beside her lithe frame before wrapping his arms around her, carrying her up in a bridal-style manner. I'm sorry things turn out this way. You hate me too, don't you? I'm an abomina. No, you're not. You're Morgan. I'm not an abomination. It doesn't matter anymore. I'll bring you to your room. The rest of the councilman blurted out, albeit fearfully. Hand her over. You've no authority over. Shut up, you filthy old goats. Smoke suddenly rose from the corner of Naruto's lips as his illuminating pair of eyes glared vehemently at the councilman. She's not an object. You don't own her. Now leave our premise or I'll make it happen. The blonde spun around gracefully and walked away. You still, Morgan coughed. Regardless, she continued. You still don't believe me, don't you? I believe you. I said I believe you. Just be quiet. The succubus sobbed into Naruto's chest, pouring her years of grievance into the blonde's heart. Lilith followed quietly behind her sister's savior. The Kuha smiled at the scene while Kalua sighed. That is probably what is so charming about him. Moka and Coco were simply marveled by their brother's sudden ferocity. Oni-chan-sama is so cool. In the end, Jaikuro had lost. Naruto sighed as he drained the dirtied water from the towel into a basin. Rummaging the closet, the blonde dragged out a new towel and cleaned Morgan's face. Her eyes were lifeless. It was comprehensible, after all, Naruto shared similar fate such as her. After Morgan's delicate face and her slender pair of hands and legs were cleansed, Naruto knew the next part was going to be embarrassing. He had to remove the stained attire of clothing from Morgan, and that required him to do it for her. Closing his eyes gently, the blonde navigated himself clumsily to the zip behind the succubus's dress and dragged it downwards. Unfurling the sides of her dress, Naruto allowed the clothes to drop onto the floor. His hands accidentally brush over the smooth complexion of Morgan's soft skin and retracted his hands away immediately. The blonde had to admit that Morgan was beautiful and her enchanting features were intoxicating, even for a young girl at her age. Her grace was scintillating perfection. Reaching out for the succubus's sleepwear, Naruto slipped it over her head and adorned the piece of pink clothing on her. Satisfied with his work, Naruto swept the succubus off her feet and smiled benignly at the distressed girl. Here. We're all done. Time for bed. Tucking the succubus down on her bed cautiously, Naruto pulled the bed sheet over Morgan's lithe frame and caressed her pink cheeks. Good night. Before the blonde spun around, the succubus had seized his wrist, halting his momentum. Please, can you stay here for a while? Naruto sat on the chair beside Morgan's bed and grasped her soft fingers. It's fine. I'll stay here until you sleep. Do you understand how it feels? Tears started to form within the succubus's pair of livid eyes as she stared at Naruto. To be an outcast. To be glared at every time you step out of your own house. The blonde was quiet, listening to Morgan's morbid confession. Do you know how it feels to be spat at? I was the symbol of hatred, I was the union of both bloods. I am a succubus and a vampire. Do you know how it feels to be denied what's rightfully mine? My father took away most of my powers when I was a child and locked them up. Like throwing coins into a safety deposit box. He made my younger sister, who I swore to protect. Lilith is all I have now. Morgan choked in her sobs, unaware that her despair had stirred the weather. Melancholy currents of dark cloud hovered above the castle. Their rotations were violent and strong, repulsing thunderbolts furiously at the soil of the earthen plates, while repressing its urge to rain. Naruto averted his eyes to the thunderstorm through the window before switching his sights at a trembling Morgan. Her powers are growing, but to think that her moods have proportionate effects to the weather. What will happen if she regains all of her powers? You don't understand anything at all. Morgan screamed furiously at an apathetic Naruto. You live your life in a fantasy, Naruto. You know nothing about pain. I do. You don't. I understand how it hurts. The blonde stared at his hands grimly. I'm a kitsune demon. I don't even belong in this castle. I'm an outcast in this family. To be honest, I don't even know if father treats me as his own son. It's not like he needs to do it anyway. In fact, I'll understand if my sisters don't regard me as their brother. The Vampire Council despises me because of my identity. Sometimes I hope I should just die to end this misery. The pain of being ostracized by society is painful. Something that hurts even more than physical affliction. Morgan blinked as Naruto wiped the tear stains on her cheeks with his sleeves and sighed. We're both outcasts. I guess you have a dependable friend now who can truly understand your pain, huh? I can't really tell if you're what you say. We all wear a mask to hide our pain. Naruto grinned. I was born without any parents. I don't even know who my parents are, even though I know father is hiding their identities from me. It's like I have no biological mother or father to begin with. They say I'm the Kyubi's reincarnation. To be honest with you, there is no such thing as being Kyubi's reincarnation. I've done my own research. But that's another story for another day. So don't be upset, okay? I promise, as long as I live, I'll protect you. Can you protect me? The succubus pouted. There are many monsters out there trying to get a piece of me. I've endured terrible things more than you know. I'm sure protecting a fair maiden like you will be simple. Morgan couldn't help but blushed. We'll see. However, the succubus had engraved a certain memory about Naruto's past into her brain. Next morning. When Morgan woke up from her sleep, she was enveloped with a pleasant aroma. Seating up groggily, the green-haired succubus wiped her eyes and allowed her visions to adjust to the brightness of her room. There was a tray of food beside her, and she beamed upon recognizing the delicacy. Steamed lobsters marinated with great gravy and delicious eggs and vegetable. That's definitely something for a fancy breakfast. I figure you might need something like that. Naruto voiced his opinion as he was settled comfortably beside Morgan's bed. You looked down yesterday. I've to wake myself up 4:30 a.m. in the morning just to prepare you this dish, princess. The succubus giggled in flattery. You humor me, my dear. I am a princess. In fact, crown princess of the fourth hell, Morgan Eansland at your service. Yes, save me the introduction. I know who you are, my princess. Naruto elaborated melodramatically as he threw his hands wide open grandly. Eat while it's hot. You'll be wasting good food if you don't take a bite now. It's now or never. Morgan picked up her cutleries and sliced a chunk of white meat from the lobster before putting it into her mouth. Chewing slowly, enjoying the sensational taste of the soft meat of the lobster, the green-haired succubus smiled in contentment. Nice. You're really a chef. For someone at your caliber, you are qualified to work in a 4-star hotel as their chef's assistant. Keep up the good work and I'll make you my assistant one day. The blonde chortled. It looks like Mori-chan is back to her normal self. I'm glad my effort isn't a waste after all. Lilith was hiding behind the door to her sister's bedroom, giggling joyously at Morgan's cheerfulness and her interaction with the blonde. I guess coming here is a good idea. Naruto-sama is so cute. Oh. Tea time. Gotta meet with Kokoa-chan for some nice tea. Good luck, Wani-sama. I'm rooting for you and Naruto-sama as a couple. 3 years later Naruto's age. 12. Naruto was seating in the leather chair of his father's office, with Issa standing beside him, directing him instructions on handling paperwork. The vampire lord had plans to allow his prodigious and loyal surrogate son to tend over their business that resided within the world of the living. Issa had established a multi-billion monopoly within the humans' realm, and he was compelled to travel through dimensions to attend various meetings or maintaining order within his company. Issa's financial empire was named Zeptotech, and its role was the development of modern technology. It was a tedious procedure, and Issa wished for Naruto to inherit his business over at the humans' territory. Much to his pleasure, the blonde was a pioneer when it came to business. He was an extraordinaire, soaking information and knowledge from the vampire lord within minutes. Circling a portion of the whiteboard with his marker, Issa exclaimed. Over the years, humanity is well known for one thing. Greed. And that is essential when it comes down to business or the stock market. Knowing both your business and the stock market is just the exoskeleton to the beginning of making substantial profits. I've made my own observations, Naruto. Weapons like guns are not dangerous. They are just tools for violence. The pen that you're holding is dangerous. It is the real weapon of despondency and chaos. Naruto stroked his chin, pondering his father's statement as he gazed at his pen. Do you mean by the fact that the pen is just a symbol of corruptions? I have seen numerous reports of accounting-based frauds that appear all over the globe in shocking proportions. Few of the culprits are captured and I know that's likely. The authority is influenced by such people occasionally. I guess robbing a bank with guns isn't that efficient or practical than stealing large sums of money with a mere pen. Is that right? Exactly. Issa smiled. Now, let's go to our next topic. If you're an investor, you're going to look at what the asset is going to do, naturally. If you're a spectator, watching the market in its rise and fall, you're focusing on what the price of the object is going to do, and that's not how we play the game. What we ought to do before participating in the game is to watch out for 2 rules. First rule, never lose money. Second rule, never forget rule number 1. The blonde nodded in acknowledgement. It's like the old saying, huh? It takes decades to build reputations, and 5 minutes are enough to ruin all of it. That's right. Moving on to. The door was knocked and they paused their sessions. It's dinner time, honey. Akasha entered the chamber and crossed her arms, clearly unsatisfied with her husband's pressurizing attempts to nurture their son. Naruto, my dear, you've already spent 3 hours in this room with your father. It's time to get out and take in some fresh air. Dinner will be ready soon. Issa sighed. Very well. You've studied hard. Review the notes I've written for you and give me a detailed epopsis of the Great Depression during the 20th century. Can I just hand in a report? That will do. The vampire lord smirked as the blonde packed his books and stationery before marching to the exit, passing through Akasha. The pink-haired vampire elder stormed towards her husband and pinched his hand angrily. The vampire lord jumped in fright and was startled by his wife's unexpected umbrage. Ow. What's that for? That's for turning our son into a mindless drone. Mindless drone? Issa sounded hurt. He is a genius. That boy is a fine specimen in the business industry. Are you listening to what you're saying? Yes. I'm planning to make him my successor. That boy deserves a childhood. Akasha argued. That's overrated, Akasha. Issa smirked. He'll be fine. I've been training him the day he started walking. I know him well. Besides, I plan to retire early, you know. Alright, dinner time. The pink-haired vampire elder sighed as she watched her aloof husband walking out of the chamber. I hope you're right about that. Dinner is awesome. Cocoa chirped. Nah, Ani-chan, you've stopped cooking for us. Why? I miss your food so much. Morrigan patted the red-deeded vampire on her shoulder and winked deviously at Naruto, who was seating across the table. Don't whine, Cocoa-chan. Your Ani-chan is busy. Yes, Cocoa. Issa cut his steak and diverted his eyes at his youngest daughter. Your brother is polishing his skills and you should be doing the same as well. Don't pester your brother with such juvenile requests anymore. It's time for you to mature and become someone like your brother. Cocoa nodded sadly. K. Naruto smiled affectionately at his dejected sister. Don't be like that. I'll make your favorite waffles tomorrow morning, okay? Okay. The red-deed beamed jubilantly. Issa merely shook his head disapprovingly at his son. Naruto, you should focus on your career. You have a bright future ahead. Let your sisters grow up, they'll be overly dependent of you if you give in to their demands every single time. It's okay, father. I'm getting lesser time to accompany Cocoa-chan and the other girls nowadays. It will be nice to take a day off once in a while. I'll hand in the report to you first thing in the morning at Sunday, is that alright? Naruto queried. Akasha immediately nudged her husband's leg aggressively under the table, glaring daggers at Issa in the process. Well, I was about to say no to that but well, it will do you some good to rest. I guess all this stress must have put a toll on you, hasn't it? The blonde grinned. Thanks. Yay. Moka and Lilith yelled aloud. We get more time with Naruto-sama Ani-sama. Palyu and Akua simply smiled at the buoyancy in the dining room. How about we play golf tomorrow? Naruto suggested. It's a great sport. Everybody can join in. What do you say? Morrigan, Akua and Kalyua's eyes were sparkling when they heard the blonde mention golf. Waving the golf club in his grip, Naruto was wearing a typical tracksuit and had a hand behind his back, lecturing the three girls standing before him. Listen up, Lilith-chan, Cocoa-chan and Moka-chan. Golf is not about rashness. It's not about hitting the balls. Hell, it's not even about hitting the ball far away to Ireland. It's about skills and patience. The masters in this game care about precisions. Take this for example. Standing in the appropriate posture, the blonde dexterously swung the club and sent the ball sailing to oblivion. Lilith and Moka brought a hand over their brows, awed by Naruto's skills. See that? I did not apply a lot of strength in it. Golf isn't about brute. Perceiving a wheezing sound approaching dangerously at him, Naruto seized the offending golf club thrown at him. The blonde scanned his surrounding and saw a sheepish Cocoa grinning at him toothily. Naruto deadpanned and ambled cautiously towards his youngest sister before snatching the bag of golf clubs away from her range. Yeah, do me a favor, Cocoa-chan. Stay the hell away from those golf clubs. Bam. The blonde twisted his attention at Moka and saw a pile of white dust on the ground. Pointing a shaky finger at the ashes, Naruto gulped. What's that? I don't know. Moka shrugged innocently. I hit the ball. It's supposed to be flying over there, but I don't see anything. Lilith giggled. Naruto chuckled nervously and took the golf club away from his silver-haired sister, who was blinking innocently at him. You use too much strength, Moka-chan. You just turned the ball into dust. Whoosh. The blonde turned around and saw Lilith with outstretched empty hands. Naruto looked at the field and saw Lilith's golf club lying 100 yards away from their spots. Naruto dropped his head in defeat. Meanwhile, standing a few meters away from the tutoring group, Morrigan, Akua and Kalyua were competing amongst themselves. Their younger sisters gawked with adoration shining in their eyes as they witnessed the balls being shot rapidly to the field by their elder sisters. Their accuracies were awfully precise as the balls Morrigan, Akua and Kalyua hit struck the bullseye located miles away. The truth was that the three girls were taught rigorously by their personal employed mentors to master the art of golf. With their ungodly strength, the golf field had become an unofficial war zone. Nai-chan is watching me now. I cannot lose to the two of them. Kalyua bit her lower lips before she assaulted the golf ball with heated vigor. Narinai is looking at me. Defeat is not an option. I'll shine for him. Akua licked her lips and struck the harmless ball. I'm not gonna let Naru-kun down. Kalyu and Akua cannot best my skills. Morgan swung her golf club, smashing the golf ball vehemently at her target. Naruto scratched his head and mused. What's up with the three of them? Akasha, who was seating on the balcony at the castle with her husband, sighed at the clueless blonde down on the field. It's all your fault, honey. My fault? Issa was incredulous. What did I do now? Our son is perfect in so many ways, except one thing. Akasha rested her chin on her palm. He's too oblivious with a girl's heart. Morgan-chan, Akua-chan and Kalyu-chan are obviously fighting for Naruto's love, yet the stupid boy is completely oblivious. And in a few years' time, our Moka-chan and Kokoa-chan will fall in love with him. He's so much like you in that field, that's for sure. It's your entire fault for making another moron. That's not fair. I trained Naruto to become a better man and look at him now. A fine gentleman in the day and a remorseless assassin at nightfall. Akasha retorted. You sent him to a battle simulation a week ago. How's that good for his mentality? He passes the test with flying colors. Issa scratched his temples. I don't get your point. You still don't get my point. It involves assassinating 20 barbarians in a crowded street on broad daylight. He beheads all of his targets without being detected. And then you have him infiltrating a mansion filled with guards. He slaughtered all of his targets and came out of the training ground with blood all over him. What kind of simulation is that? It's outrageously absurd. The pink-haired vampire elder growled. Don't you get it? He's only 12 for heaven's sake and he's already the master of stealth at that tender age. He can literally massacre a town filled with humans in one night for cry out loud. The vampire lord blinked in confusion. I still don't get your point. What's wrong with that? From my point of view, Naruto is getting stronger. He's exceeding my expectation. And I intend to push it to the next level. Arg. Akasha was on the verge of pulling her hair out. Wrestling herself up in a standing posture, the pink-haired vampire elder glared at her husband. I'm putting Naruto on 1-month probation. The boy deserves to be with his family, and that's that. But. Akasha's glare of death was executed mercilessly and Issa conceded. Fine. Have it your way. I'm going to get myself a bottle of scotch. Naruto was wiping Lilith and Kokoa's sweats with a towel at their lounge, while Moka was sipping her lemonade joyfully. Kalyu and Morgan had broken their golf clubs from their sheer strength and glared at a victorious Akua who had won their battle. It was then Akasha walked into the chamber with a stern scowl plastered on her face and she beckoned conspiratorially at Naruto to follow her. The blonde obliged, stood up and tailed after his surrogate mother. Morgan, Kalyu and Akua exchanged gazes before they followed Naruto. The girl stealthily trailed after the quiet Naruto to Akasha's bedroom at a considerable distance in order to avoid detection. When they arrived, the door was fortunately opened slightly for the three curious girls to eavesdrop. Within their chamber, the pink-haired vampire elder was scrutinizing the blonde. Naruto, we need to talk. What is it? It's about your current lifestyle. Naruto arched a brow. What do you mean by that? What's wrong with my current lifestyle? You're turning into a monster. Akasha yelled. I know Issa wants you to become powerful and reclaim Kyubi's power, but it's turning you into a monster. Kyubi no Yoko is a powerful demon. When he was alive, he was even stronger than me. Only the former Dark Lord, my husband and your father, is able to fight that demonic fox in a stalemate. A stalemate. Kyubi is feared throughout the continents of the demon world for his nefarious attitude. His notoriety is so terrifying that during his reign, those who hear his name quaver. Kyubi is a psychotic conqueror. You're not him. I'll never let you become him. The blonde smiled and nodded. I understand. However, I will still undergo father's training. But why? It's because he is my father. Naruto stared insouciantly at his mother. I will do what he asks of me. Akasha narrowed her eyes, unconvinced by the blonde's conviction. That's not the real reason, right? The blonde chuckled and nodded solemnly. I will bear the burden upon my shoulders. I will atone for my sins in the future and seek my own redemption. I know father has plans for Akasha, Kalyu and Morgan. They are primary targets, mother. If I don't become stronger, father will put the three of them in arduous trainings. To turn them into living weapons. Since I'm their brother, I will take the responsibility to become the monster father wants. Clenching her shaky fists angrily, the pink-haired vampire elder furrowed her brows. Why are you sacrificing yourself like this? Are your sisters really worth it? Do you really treasure your family this much? Yes. They mean everything to me. Mori-chan, Moka-chan, Kokoa-chan, Kalyu-chan, Akua-chan, Lilith-chan, I'll protect all of them. Even if I have to die trying, I'll fight for them. I'll turn into a monster for them. For their sake. Naruto answered without hesitation. Kokoa-chan, Lilith-chan and Moka-chan are still too young to know the horror of the cold world outside this castle. They are too pure to be tainted by bloodshed, and I'll be damned to let the three of them be ruined. Kaluya-chan has to take care of her younger sisters and the chores in the house. Besides, I know she detests violence. I want her let be part of it. Naruto averted his eyes away. Mori-chan suffers tortures all for her little sister's sake. She has endured too much since the day she's born. And I promise I'll protect her. I won't go back on my words. And Akuha-chan, she has a terrible past. She has to fend for herself at a young age. If father trains Akuha-chan, it'll be no doubt that she will turn into a killing machine in the future. I know father's characteristics too well. He'll definitely turn Kaluya-chan, Mori-chan and Akuha-chan into salvage beasts if they're under his tutelage. I'm not going to let that happen. Akasha sighed and caressed Naruto's cheeks lovingly. Silly boy. You're putting too many responsibilities on your shoulders. I guess I'll be insulting you if I stop you now. But promise me, if you ever face any problems, come to me. I'll always be here for you. Thank you, mother. The girls who was hiding behind the door and had overheard the blonde's resolve, laced with a voice of determination and dedication, gasped lightly. Their hearts were pounding passionately, they were genuinely touched by Naruto's unwavering love. But to think that the blonde would go to the extreme to protect their innocence by abandoning his freedom warmed Morgan, Kaluya and Akuha's hearts tremendously. It was beyond the notion of praiseworthiness when the boy had to retain a blissful facade constantly in front of his family, despite the pain he had gone through. The three girls sighed heavily with a mixture of guilt, hinting within their tone and ambled away. I think I'm falling madly in love with Naru-kun. Morgan licked her lips provocatively. This is not good. I'm already reaching puberty. My hormones level will escalate if I'm not careful. If I fall in love too much with Naru-kun, I'm afraid I might not be able to resist my temptations anymore. Akuha was blushing vivaciously as she fidgeted her fingers. Narunai is so cute. He's irresistible. Oh no, my heart is racing. Isn't Narunai so beautiful? He's willing to put up all that for me. I hope my face is not red, but I'm happy to know someone cares about me. I should learn more about Narunai. I know he'll understand me. Kaluya flushed a deep scarlet as she walked through the tenebrous hallway. Why is Nai-chan bottling everything to himself? Why can't he trust me and tell me his pain? I know he's hurting, but he's hurting for me. I feel so stupid to doubt his love for me. But Nai-chan only looks at me as a sister, not a lover. Will he even thinks of me as a potential mate? I'm so confused. A few hours later. Naruto was garbed in his battle attire. It consisted of a black shirt designed to minimize any possible sound levels produced by the fabric. The blonde's waist was stashed with a utility belt, which had shuriken and throwing knives secured on it, and behind his back was strapped with twin katana fastened in X fashion. His dark-colored cargo pants were equipped with numerous weaponries. He also had Swiss Army knives within his combat boots. For smooth assassinations, Naruto wore wrist guards that had retractable hidden blades contained within it. Good, my boy. I see you're ready. Issa was standing in a chamber structured with advanced technologies. The room compassed of two compartments with glass windows separating the two sections. One division was devised with keyboards and holographic monitors, and the other was an empty chamber. Now that you're ready, I shall explain to you the changes that I've made for your next training. Issa signaled the shadows and Akuha emerged, much to Naruto's chagrin. Father. Akuha is ready as well. She might not be as strong as you, but she needs more experiences for combats and warfare. The vampire lord gestured the black-haired vampire to stand beside her brother, and she did as she was told. Naruto exhaled a breath of exasperation. Is this really necessary? Absolutely. Akuha answered. I'm the one who requests for this. I want to help you, Narunai. But. Placing a finger on Naruto's lips, the dark-haired vampire leaned her body against the blonde's. Please let me fight with you. Let me bear this burden with you, Narunai. The blonde sighed. Very well. But promise me if the situations get suicidal, don't you dare play distraction. I'll do the dangerous part. We'll see. Akuha grinned mischievously. Issa pressed a few buttons on the keyboard and activated the simulation program. Get ready, Naruto, Akuha. You have a week worth of time to meet your objectivity. If you get through the objectivity in the mission in time, you'll be able to get out sooner. Naruto, you're already a veteran in this procedural. Tell them to Akuha and good luck. The blonde and the black-haired vampire vanished into non-existence after the vampire elder pressed a red button at the side of the keyboard. Your time starts now. The blinding light enveloped Naruto and Akuha. The dark-haired girl shut her eyes momentarily. When everything was synchronized, Akuha opened her eyes and was startled by the scenario before her. They were standing on a rooftop of a skyscraper, overseeing the skyline of a dark city. Akuha was confused at her situation. What's this? This look very real. Father didn't fill me with any information. I expect you to provide me the necessity. Naruto scowled. Okay. For starters, when the situation gets tough, I stand in the front line. I won't forgive you if you try to act brave. Yeah, why the gloominess? The blonde abruptly turned around and shook the dark-haired vampire's shoulders aggressively. Akua had never seen her brother's anger before, and his eyes were blazing rage fiercely. Do you understand our problems? Father has raised the difficulties to the highest. Because you're here, Father wants to test both of our abilities to the fullest. Akua arched a brow. What are you talking about? This is a mass-scale simulation. Usually, he only expects me to take down numerous people in a small area. Now. Naruto narrowed his eyes viciously as he surveyed the outline of the bridge located at the outskirt of the land. We're talking about a city now. There are millions of people living in this city. I don't know what will happen next. Almost anything will happen now. This is not a shopping spree. I have gone through more than 200 simulations. I have seen things that will terrify you. Oh? The dark-haired vampire crossed her arms. Humor me. Naruto deadpanned. I've fought an island of zombies that can run faster than cheetahs and can hear your breathes from a 2 miles radius. I didn't sleep for a week just to kill all of them. Akua cringed upon registering her brother's statement and sighed. So what now? The blonde looked at the busy streets beneath his feet from the apex of the tower and exhaled an exhausted breath. I guess the only thing we can do now is to. Moka looked at her right then shifted her attentions at her right. Her favorite elder brother and her elder sister who doted her immensely were absent from the dining table. Kalua was puzzled, Morgan was suspicious, Lilith was devouring her favorite packet of potato chip that Naruto had bought for her, and Cocoa was drinking her soup. Issa was completely expressionless, and Akasha was eerily quiet and her aura was radiating subtle anger. Mommy? Where's Oni-sama and Wani-sama? The silver-haired vampire queried softly. Akasha darted her eyes sharply at Issa, who was avoiding her wife's gazes. Softening her eyes, she stared benevolently at her daughter. It's okay. They are on a mission. Kalua twisted her head at her surrogate mother and fumed. Them? Together? In a mission. Morgan wrinkled her nose and muttered incoherently. She wins this time. Moka pouted. Why didn't anybody tell me this? Why didn't Oni-sama tell me about his mission with Wani-sama? Yes, honey. That is true. The pink-haired vampire elder smiled sweetly at her husband. Why don't you explain yourself, dear? Everybody in the room snapped their attentions at the silver-haired vampire lord. Issa was toying with his silver fringe, trying to think of ways to escape his predicament. Formulating plausible reasons, the vampire lord answered. Naruto and Akua are undergoing important training session that will strengthen them up. Kalua, Morgan, do you wish to join him in his next training session? Kalua nodded hastily. Sure. I would certainly like to fight alongside with Nai-chan. I've never seen much of his fighting capabilities before. It will be a blast. Morgan smiled. Akasha, however, slammed her hand on the table and stormed to her room. Akua was uncertain, her brother was initially aggravated by their dilemma, but now his mood was tantamount to a violent typhoon. He was now lackadaisical and neglecting the importance of their current duties. The blonde was eating a plate of spaghetti while sipping his lemonade without a care for the world. The dark-haired vampire sighed as she chewed a slice of pizza and studied the fast food restaurant. Narinai, why are we eating here? In fact, why are the foods here edible? Isn't this a simulation? Naruto shook his head and swallowed his food. Nope. It's not just a simulation. It's actually called the CRS, Aka the crossover reality simulation. It copies the reality from other dimension and instills it as a simulation program, like a virtual world. In fact, everything here is pretty much real. If you lose an arm in the simulation program, you lose an arm. If you lose a leg, you lose a leg when you get out of the simulation. If you die in this world, well, you die. So you can understand how serious this is, right? If we're in a serious conundrum, should we be prepared? Akua asked quizzically. You know. In case giant monsters appear out of nowhere and decide that the humans out there make great snacks. The blonde thought for a while, tapped his chin with a finger and shrugged. Nah. I'm too lazy to do that. If there's an explosion outside then we'll consider doing something about it. As if on cue, an explosion occurred outside the restaurant and the window shattered upon the deafening eruption. Akua twirled her attention behind her, watching a panicked crowd screaming and running away from the disputation. When she returned her sights at Naruto, the dark-haired vampire was startled by her brother's nonchalance as he continued to devour his noodle. Hello? Narinai, something crazy is going on outside. Aren't we supposed to go check it out? Naruto shook his head. Nah, we'll do something if a horde of headless humans fly through the streets. After he had articulated his sentence, bifurcated and mutilated corpses were sailing across the streets. Akua blinked at the macabre scene outside the partially demolished restaurant and gaped. Headless humans are really flying outside all over the streets. I think it is time we should do something about it. The blonde refused and drank his lemonade optimistically. Nah. Not yet. We'll do something when the militaries arrive and then they get their hapless asses crushed by a falling building or something. Eerily, everything Naruto stated was unfolding before them. A legion of police officers had pulled their tanks and cars on a dead stop before dashing out of their vehicles, preparing the necessities before charging forward at whatever monstrosity that was awaiting them. Sadly, their fates were short when a decapitated building landed directly on them. Akua gawked and stared dumbstruck at Naruto. Are you satisfied now? The blonde wiped his mouth with a napkin and smirked. Alright, let's go. Akua watched as her brother stood up and strode past her with a serene demeanor. The dark-haired vampire surveyed the destruction within the restaurant and realized something spooky, only their table was perfectly intact. Quickly, Akua-chan. We're in for one wild night. You will regret this, Issa. Akasha had tears in her eyes as she screamed at her husband. You'll turn Naruto into a monster. The vampire elder walked towards his wife and grasped her shoulders. Don't be impatient. I'm sure the boy will be loyal to me. I brought him into his household. I gave him a family. I gave him something those humans could not provide him. He's more grateful to me than to scorn his own benefactor. Trust me. I'm just shaping him to let him become an intelligent businessman, a powerful assassin and a caring nurturer for our children. He'll gain nothing if he lives in that dimension as a Jinchuriki. You're using him, Issa. Akasha was facing a conundrum of uncertainty. I'm really afraid that boy. Don't worry. I'm not using him. It's a mutual understanding. Issa smirked and hugged his wife lovingly. Have faith in me and stop worrying about that boy. He'll do fine. Unbeknownst to the couple, Morgan had overheard everything. The succubus hastily rushed to the library. I need to know more about Naruto. What's a Jinchuriki? Where exactly did Naruto come from? What's the truth about the Kyubi? I need to know it. Akua rushed out of the demolished restaurant and stared at the macabre scene unfolding before her. There were grotesque corpses scattered all over the decimated streets and the sirens of the wrecked cars were blaring. Naruto was examining the cargoes from the deceased militaries. Opening the crates, the blonde smirked triumphantly. Nice. All the latest gadgets are here. The HK-417. And it comes with scope and silencer. And the FN Scar H is here as well. They sure know how to get their stuff. Wait Narinai, are you telling me that you know those soldiers will die there? Akua was in dismay. Yes. If they don't die, we can't get their weapons. Naruto smirked with malefic intentions under the shadows. Besides, we don't know what we're up against. We better stock up some assault rifles before we get our asses handed to whatever monsters out there. But don't you think it is cruel to let those soldiers? Akua-chan the blonde sighed and twirled his sights at his sister. If we die, more of them will die too. Our objective is to stay alive and most likely to destroy the threats that are rampaging manically on these streets. If we rescue those soldiers, they will either send us to interrogations or kill us on the spot. It will cost us meaningless time and might even produce detrimental results. I don't die that easily, but I'm not sure about you. I won't risk your life, do you hear me? Marching furiously towards her brother, Akua grasped onto the blonde's shoulders. I'm a big girl, alright. I can take care of myself. You cannot protect me forever. I'll protect you as long as I live. Even if that's forever. Naruto twisted his attention back to the weaponries and seized the FN Scar. I'll take this. No thank you. The blonde stood up and handed the assault rifle to his sister peremptorily. Reload your weapon like this. Exemplifying his statements, Naruto jerked the rifle swiftly forward and the magazine fell onto the ground. In a spur of moment, the blonde had clept a cartridge into the weapon. Pulling the charger's handle backwards, Naruto placed it into Akua's grasps. Don't be stubborn. You will need it. I guarantee. The dark-haired vampire was still unsure, but she took the assault rifle anyway. Naruto opened a few more crates hastily and seized a utility belt before slotting grenades and flashbangs into vacant pouches. The blonde shifted his attention to Akua and wrapped the belt around her waist. I'm sure you know how to use them, right? Nodding impassively, the dark-haired vampire sighed. Is this necessary? Yes. Naruto equipped himself with a HK-417 battle rifle and strapped a series of magazines behind his back. At any rate, if we want to know what's going on, we need to keep walking. Alright. Akua smirked. Let's do this. Placing the oil lamp onto an antique table, Morgan blew the dusts off from the Book of Ancient History and flipped open the first page. Legends of the Ancient Beasts. Skimming through the content of the book, the succubus discovered the information regarding of the Kyubi no Yoko. When she turned to the particular page, there was an illustration on the wrinkled paper. It was the picture of the demon lord in all its glory and his 9 tails swing proudly behind him. Morgan browsed the first few paragraphs detailing perception and psychological nature of the unholy beast. Morgan was engrossed at her evaluation of the Kyubi's history that she had unconsciously recited softly. The unstoppable beast that destroys anything in its path, Kyubi no Yoko is an abomination that holds no conscience. Its power is limitless. With a sway of a tail, it causes volcano eruption at a global scale. With a swipe of his paw, it brings forth tsunami. Kyubi no Yoko is the harbinger of unlimited chaos and an entity that must remain unprovoked. Its strength is inconceivable and its fury is unquenchable. The beasts originate from the genesis of nature itself. Bestowed by the gifts of darkness, Kyubi no Yoko controls the element of disasters. It is the only entity in the world that holds enough power to destroy the world. Such is the might of the Kyubi no Yoko. Morgan sighed and flipped to the next page. I know all this. I need to know. The succubus was alerted when her eyes spotted the word she was looking for. Jinchuriki, a human sacrifice is made in order for the demonic beast to be sealed in bay. It required. Gasping with terror, Morgan collapsed onto the ground and the book slipped out of her hands. Her mind was in a trance. Unknowingly, she blurted out the remaining sentence. It requires an infant from the human race to seal the Kyubi no Yoko's spirit. Hovering her mouth, the succubus panted. Naruto-kun was a human. Morgan didn't realize a certain redeed had been eavesdropping on her. Whipping out his blade stylishly, Naruto slew a few aliens in a blink of an eye. I hate them. What are those? Akua panted as she pressed the trigger of her assault rifle, unleashing a barrage of bullets mercilessly at her enemies. Xenomorphs. Just make sure those assholes don't ever cross those cars. They are the masters of stealth and combat. Naruto seized the rifles that he stashed behind his back and fired at the aliens. Their bloods are extremely acidic. If you cut them with knives, your knives will corrode. That means don't ever get your body covered by their blood. And they have iron tongue. Not good for kissing. Great for killing. Can penetrate through concrete walls. Their tails are dangerous too. Watch out for that too. How do you know so much about them? I fought them more than I can count. Father enjoys sending me to alien planets to train. Naruto tossed the rifles, which had lost its ammunitions, onto the ground and unsheathed his blades. White flames emerged from the tip of the blonde swords and he swung it vertically upwards, discharging blazing tidal waves of fire at the aliens. Sniffing the atmosphere, Naruto was revolted by the smell of burnt corpses and something he didn't wish to meet. Oh crap. They're here. We gotta go. Who's coming? Akua arched a brow. See those aliens over there? They have mothers and I think we pissed them off. Mothers? Plural. The dark-haired vampire blanched in horror. How big are we talking about? The last one I killed, she's about 7 meters tall. They're like queens of the nest. 7? Akua yelled incredulously. Queens of their nest. The ground started to shake and the couple paused. A gigantic bipedal monstrosity approached from atop of a building and roared at the blonde and the dark-haired vampire. Its elongated, cylindrical skull was adorned with plates that resembled a dark crown and it had a skeletal body, which had a waggling tail attached behind its back. Akua had deadpanned as she had calculated the approximate size of the beast. That alien is more than 8 meters tall. Naruto nodded nonchalantly. Yeah, it sure has grown bigger. 2 more gigantic aliens appeared behind the queen alien's back and Naruto whistled in awe. Whoa. 3 queens. Today is our unlucky day or what? Oh well. The good news is, if we kill those 3 buffoons, I'm sure the smaller ones will leave us alone. The bad news is we have to fight those 3 buffoons. Who are you calling buffoons, you incorrigible pest? Naruto and Akua blinked as they registered a feminine voice, laced with seductive venom in the tone. The blonde arched a brow when he saw a woman who had voluptuous curves and dressed in every sense, sexy, ambling towards him. The woman had cascading dark hair with a columnar helmet wore loosely on the back of her head. An exotic crown circulated around her forehead and she had black lipsticks colored on her lips. Her curvy hips and her busty chest captivated Naruto. The blonde quickly looked away, much to Akua's displeasure. She saw how her brother was looking at the mysterious woman and she didn't like it. Who are you? Naruto blurted out. Who am I? The woman smirked with amusement. I am the goddess of my species, Empress of the Xenomorphs. They call me Vasilissa. And you, child, have exterminated my kind for the last time. Hey, it's not my fault. They're trying to kill me and my sister. We're defending ourselves. Sister? Vasilissa tilted her head in confusion. The 2 of you are not related. I'm adopted. The blonde was dreadfully impassive. Prove to me. Vasilissa beeped a brow. Proof. Show it to me that you're their empress. Meanwhile, a horrendous legion of bloodthirsty aliens was charging towards it Naruto and Akua. Vasilissa smirked and swirled her head slightly to her back before she muttered frostily. Stop. The aliens halted and shivered under their mistress's predatory gazes. Is that enough proof for you? So why are you? Akua questioned uncertainly. Human. Vasilissa finished for the dark-haired vampire. I'm in this planet filled with creatures such as humans. And they are the dominating species on this planet. It is only natural for me to blend in and become one myself. I believe I don't need to do that now. It's redundant. This planet is facing extinction as we speak. And my mission is to stop you. Naruto's blade ignited into flames. Akua had dropped her weapons and braced herself in a fighting posture. Stop me. Vasilissa guffawed sinisterly as her horde of aliens covered the entire city in unimaginable magnitude. You? With what army? Naruto flexed his fingers, and geyser of magma rose from the ground, melting several aliens with steaming lava. I am an army myself. Akua was reading her favorite magazine on her bed when Morrigan barged into her room. The succubus stared at the bewildered blonde momentarily before she walked towards Akua and sat on the bed. The blonde vampire was perturbed by Morrigan's pair of passionate gazes. What are you doing in my room? Have you heard of something called knocking? Tell me, Akua. Answer me honestly. Do you love Naruto-kun? Akua was flustered upon registering the question and stuttered miserably. What are you talking about? Oh, of course I love Nai-chan. He's my brother. The succubus's glare intensified. You know what I mean. We both know you love him more than just sisterly love. Now tell me, do you truly love him as a lover? The girl hid her blush and tilted her head downwards. Yes. But you love him even if he's a human. What are you? Just answer me. Morrigan interjected heatedly. Would you love Naruto-kun even if he's a human? Akua's eyes were glowing with determination as she replied doubtlessly. Yes. Even if he's a human, I will still love him wholeheartedly. That's what I've expected to hear. The succubus rushed out of Akua's chamber and sped to her next destination, leaving a clueless blonde vampire pondering aimlessly in her bedroom. There's no end to all of them. Akua roared as she darted into oblivion, causing afterimage of her apparition tracing her path, and manifested her form beside a panting Naruto. The aliens standing in her pathway were annihilated. We can't keep doing this. Naruto gritted his teeth and sheathed his swords onto his back. Brilliant flames blazed into existence as it hovered above Naruto's open palm. Channeling demonic energy into the azure fire, the orb of furious flame was enhanced into a humongous sphere. Without delaying any further, the blonde threw the gigantic white flames at an approaching battalion of aliens. The outcome was a catastrophic explosion to erupt, pulverizing countless of aliens. Amaterasu no Gon. Sun Goddess's great flame. Vasilissa's eyebrow twitched with irritation as she witnessed the death of her spawns. Stop. You ingrate. How dare you? Hey. It's not my fault. What do you expect me to do? Stand here and do nothing? Let your babies eat me alive. Why don't I eat you alive instead, huh? Naruto huffed. The Empress eyed. That's a valid point. Akua blinked. So we get truce. Truce? No. Vasilissa stepped forward and signaled telepathically at her minions to retreat. I will fight you myself. Naruto scratched his temples. In chess, the queen is the strongest in the board. I hope that doesn't apply to you. The Empress simply smirked iniquitously. I am the Empress. I am more powerful than my little sisters. And they are the queens of the board, by the way. The blonde and his sister were apprehensive as they anticipated Vasilissa's move. She simply snapped her fingers and invisible blades were launched at Naruto and Akua. The vampire bared her fangs and swung her arms. Jaijin 2. Jyakusatsu Horu, Dimension Blade. Massacre Hall. Akua nullified the opposing blades with her mythical assaults, and the hazardous collision between both attacks disintegrated the nearby cars as an aftermath. The Empress was impressed as she grinned impishly. Interesting. You, my dear, have really sparked my curiosity. But it is not you I am interested. It is the boy. Vasilissa stuck her tongue out at Naruto and liquid acid shot at the blonde. Conflagration burst into wildfire as it shielded the blonde and the dark-haired vampire against the toxic projectiles. The venomous spray of mist extinguished the wall of flames, and Naruto was perturbed. No way. My flames cannot be obliterated unless my foes are stronger than me. I guess my limiter is being a nuisance to me. I cannot protect Akua-chan with my limiter intact. But if I remove it I cannot guarantee if I can control my powers. Damn it. What should I do? Just give up, my sweetheart. The Empress of the aliens declared grandly as tilted her head. If you are willing to become my slave, I will be gracious and spare your sister's life. I won't give up. You can give up enticing me to give up, Vasilissa. Naruto dashed forward into a sonic blur and unclipped his katana. I will defeat you. Naranai. Akua screamed. She's luring you into a trap. Don't. It's too late. The Empress's tail lashed out and pierced through the blonde's abdomen. Naruto widened his eyes as his momentum was halted and blood gashed out from the edge of his mouth. Akua was on the verge of crying as her brother was convulsing with agony. It's a pity, my dear. You are not on my league, but a few years of cultivation might make you an indestructible monster. Too bad you have to die in my hands. But don't worry, I won't feed you to my children. You are too precious to me, Kyubi no Yoko. I'm glad that you know about my lineage. Naruto grabbed the hilt of his sword and stabbed the blade into an unprepared Vasilissa's stomach. The Empress grunted and stared in utter disbelief at her supposedly victim. I have high-speed regeneration. I don't die easily. Hissing painfully, the blonde removed himself from Vasilissa's sharp tail. Assaying Naruto's bleeding wound, the Empress was astonished beyond cognition of the phenomenon unfolding before her. The fatal injury she had inflicted on Naruto's body was healing with an inhumane amelioration rate. Drawing his blade out of Vasilissa's toned body, Naruto sighed and watched as the Empress clutched onto her stomach. You have lost, Vasilissa. I won't kill you though. Leave this planet now. This is over. This whole war is over. Over? Vasilissa grinned and cracked her neck. The pernicious injury on her abdomen had vanquished miraculously, and the Empress licked her lips provocatively. I must be honest with you, child of Kyubi, your appealing appearance and your powers are really arousing me. Akua was exasperated. You are disgusting. I'm not talking to you, little girl. Vasilissa snarled. Let's make a deal, Naruto. A deal? The blonde arched a brow. I am willing to hand you my empire. Hand me your empire? Naruto was perplexed. I'm afraid I don't follow. Silly boy. The Empress caressed the blonde's cheek. Don't you understand what I'm saying? I'm offering you a chance to become my king. Akua was astounded. Naruto was confused, however. What do you mean by that? Vasilissa smirked. Are you playing with me, boy? I want you to be my mate. Do you get it now? The blonde shook his head rigorously. What? I don't want a 15-meter tall monster to be my wife. No. I rather die. How hypocritical. We both are monsters. And your true form is bigger than me, you know. The Empress argued. My true form? You know Kyubi. He has dominated me a few times. Vasilissa folded her arms and was apathetic. He is really terrifying. And when I say terrifying I mean he can erase your soul just with his presence. Do you know why there are no suitable candidates who are fit to be my husband? 'Cause you're ugly when you reveal your true form for the whole world to see. Naruto antagonized and was invigorated by his humor, even when the menacing situation was exigent. Vasilissa sneered. Snarky. I will tell you the reason. 2 words. Sexual cannibalism. For centuries, the queens of our races only seek kings who are stronger than us. Those who are weaker than us will inevitably be eaten by us. That is why my sisters are pregnant the day they become what they are. Because none of the males in our species are capable of growing into something competent enough for us to love, still, as a mother, I love them nonetheless. So you believe Naruto is strong? He is strong. His veins flow the accursed blood of the Demon King, Kyubi no Yoko. It is his destiny to become the next conqueror of both hell and all dimensions. I'm sorry but I'm not interested with your proposal. Naruto snatched his sword and smirked. I prefer to stay single, thank you. Vasilissa pursed her lips. How unfortunate. Then you have to die here, sweetheart. Mommy, I need to talk. Moka said timidly. Akasha smiled warmly at her daughter and patted the silver-haired vampire's head. What is it, my dear? It's about Oni-sama. Neri-chan. What about him? The vampire elder arched a brow. I don't know how to describe my feelings about him. Feelings? As in your love towards your brother? Moka nodded while she fidgeted her fingers unsettlingly. Yes, I know he's technically my brother, but he's not related to me. By blood, no. Akasha was starting to like where this was going. Let me guess, he is the only person who can make your heart beats faster and slower at the same time. This warm, fuzzy feeling in your heart and the acute pain of your stomach when you see him only enhance your feelings towards him. You love him deeply, more than you know, am I correct? Ah yes. Moka conceded. I'm confused, mommy. It's natural, Moka-chan. He loves you more than you love him and he cares for you more than you can see. Akasha sighed. Mommy cannot explain it to you, the physic of love that is. You must discover this feeling yourself. The simulation is Oni-sama going to be safe? The vampire elder smiled. Yes, your Oni-sama is powerful. Have faith in him, alright. The silver-haired vampire's lip curled up a beatific smile. Okay. Naruto leaned against a wall and panted tediously. We'll rest here tonight and slaughter tomorrow. Are you sure? Will they be able to track us? Akua queried with concern. I still want to sleep, you know. Don't worry. I cover our scents with flames and smokes. There are literally hundreds of crash sites all over the city. Tracking us is like finding a needle in a haystack. It won't be easy. The blonde unbuckled the straps that carried his twin swords and placed them on a corner of the room. I'll do guard duty and grab some food while I'm at it. Just sleep. I have placed a barrier within this room. Nobody gets in and nobody gets out, except me. Anything tries to come in forcefully will be burned to ashes. That sounds great. The dark-haired vampire sighed. You don't need any sleep. No. Not really. When I'm on mission, I don't sleep much. Naruto smiled. I only need a few hours of sleep to maintain my strength. Don't worry about me. Worry about yourself first. Now sleep. Akua sighed and conceded to her fatigue. Planting a few grenades on a tenebrous alley, Naruto hid himself on a nearby rooftop and threw a ball of flames at his directed location, detonating the spot as a result. Simultaneously, it triggered a cornucopia of events. Naruto smirked as ravens started to scatter from distant lands. What astounded the blonde was the fact that creatures from all plausible routes were traveling towards the sudden disturbance. I bet all the enemies are coming here to check it out. This will allow me to gauge their strength. I know Vasilissa's species are not the only habitants in this planet. Other bastards have already arrived for the party. Unsheathing his blades from his scabbard and performed a fluid slash to his back, the blonde retracted his sword. An eviscerated alien dropped onto the ground in a soft thud beside Naruto. The blonde heaved a sigh. I have to get to the grocery stores to grab myself some food. Have to stock up the safe house. I don't even know what the true objective of this mission is. I can't guarantee the duration of this mission. Naruto watched with piqued interest as numerous aliens crawled their ways to the commotion. However, they were incapacitated by unknown forces. Naruto concentrated and his eyes sparkled into azure flames as he surveyed the streets. The blonde detected translucent objects, with obvious heat influx emitting from it, were moving at the rooftops. The premonition of danger stimulated instantaneously in the scope of his instinctive intuition, and the blonde quickly raised his blade, blocking a lethal strike from above. Attacking the blonde behind his back with a stealth assault was a bulk individual, wearing a solid helmet with miniature cannons situated on his shoulder and an overall armor piece stashed with an arsenal of weapons. Naruto growled as his blades burst into flames and the assailant flinched before it retreated. Sparing no mercy, Naruto tackled the mysterious warrior with a soaring kick, successfully knocking the enemy onto the ground and in the process, removing its helmet. The blonde was baffled when he examined his opponent's features. Crap. You guys are involved in this game as well. The uchiha apex extraterrestrial predators who hunt anything worthy to be hunted are said to be the best combatants throughout galaxies. Their primary nemesis is the xenomorph. Most of them hunt for sports. Crazy fellows, I must say. The hunter strained a grunt and seized his spear. Naruto simply smirked and softened his grip on the hilt of his blade. Let's see how crazy you are. Before the predator was ready to toss his spear at the blonde, Naruto blitzed forward and animated his frame behind his enemy, with a mirage of a pair of flaming wings appearing from his back and the fire on his sword diffused. The hunter writhed in agony before it was bifurcated and the predator collapsed onto the ground. You're crazy, that's for sure, but you're not strong enough to challenge me yet. Train for a couple more decades and come back to me, and perhaps you might become a decent foe. Oh, wait. You're already dead, mate. Naruto's ears twitched slightly and scorching heat combusted within his grasp. Parasites, with numerous limbs that resembled a spider and had a few pincers for mouth, climbed up from the building and hissed at the blonde. Snatching both blades, Naruto channeled his fire onto the entirety of his swords and grinned victoriously. I've seen you guys before. You guys once terrorized a city and chopped off the landmark's head. How disrespectful. Come, let me instill some discipline into you assholes. Amaterasu no engine. Sun Goddess's flame sword. Whipping his twin katana adroitly, Naruto skillfully performed acrobatic movements. Every attempt he made to swing his swords, flames extended from the tip of his blades and solidified into sharp edges, slicing the parasites in the blink of an eye from afar and incinerated his foes to black ashes, leaving no survivors. Sheathing his katana, Naruto sighed and tilted his head upwards, staring at a few ruined buildings. As predicted, the xenomorphs are not just the terrorists. The uchiha and the clover parasites have invaded this planet as well. This is not a coincidence. The blonde stroked his chin and mused. 3 different types of aliens under one roof. Something within this planet must have lured all of them here. Something is just not right about this dimension. You're right, sweetie. Something is not right about this planet. Naruto diverted his sights to his back and was confronted by Vasilissa's presence. What do you want now? The Empress shrugged her shoulders. Nothing, really. And it is not a coincidence. I was attracted by the essence of this planet. That is why I decided to investigate this planet myself. Turns out, I was right. What do you mean by that? Vasilissa ambled towards Naruto and cupped his chin. It won't be fun if I disclose everything to you, right? Allow me to give you a hint. The blonde's glare was firmed. We were called into this planet. What do you mean by that? Vasilissa licked her lips and smiled subtly at the blonde. Sweetie, greed is the answer. Greed once made this planet wealthy. Greed once made this country we're standing on prospers. Greed exists throughout races. Once you're intoxicated by greed, you never get out the circle of life. And that's what life is about. Greed is a weapon of mass destruction, that's what it is. The humans realize that their fuel is used up. They need a solution fast. So they build a reactor. A reactor? Naruto beeped a curious eyebrow. Why are you telling me this? The Empress ignored the question and continued. The reactor sends pulses of energy throughout the galaxy. It brings all kind of creatures from outer space to this tiny little planet. We gather here because, like the humans, we greed. They want to obtain our energy sources and we want theirs. It's a mutual understanding. Any sentient beings out there want one thing, survival. And as for why I tell you this, you're a smart kid, you'll figure it all out in due time. Winking deviously at Naruto, Vasilissa smirked. I'll see you soon, Naruto. I need an answer, Issa-sama. Was Naruto-kun human? Morgan questioned with aggravation. The vampire elder rested his chin atop of his interlocked fingers and furrowed his brows sternly. That is none of your concern, Morgan. Leave. No. The succubus retorted. I will not leave unless I get an adequate response from you, Issa-sama. I need to know the truth. Some truth deserves not to be exposed to the public. Leave this room and I will pretend this conversation never happens before. Relentlessly, Morgan continued to elicit the truth from the vampire elder. I'm not going to leave unless you tell it to me. I want to know it. I won't leave if you don't tell the truth to me. Naruto-kun is a human, isn't he? He is a human, that's why you're evasive, right? I don't know what you're talking about. Issa furiously pointed his finger at the door and growled. I won't say it twice. Get out. The succubus was persistent nevertheless. Kill me. Arching a brow, the vampire elder glared at Morgan in her adamant attitude. What? I beg your pardon. You heard me. I won't budge unless you tell me everything. Issa exhaled a loud breath of irritation and leaned back on his leather chair. So you want the truth, huh? Do you even know what that word depicts? If you wish to know more about the truth of Naruto, then this conversation shall be confidential. You must never, ever tell anybody about this. In fact, what I'm going to tell you is a secret that must never be known to the public. Naruto's history and background have always been deep-fried in a paranoia conspiracy. However, it is not as simple as that. Now, listen carefully. Morgan gulped. I'm ready for the truth. Akua yawned and she stretched her arms. Adjusting her eyes to the brightness of the room, the vampire looked through the window and sighed at the chaos and disorder from the city. Akua blinked and evaluated the room. There was a modern-designed kitchen with fridge and a stove, an adequate living room and a few bedrooms. There were a sizzling bowl of minestrone soup lying on the dining table and a glass of orange juice beside it. Donned in a pink apron, Naruto popped his head out from the counter and smiled. Hey, you're awake. Naranai what? I went to get a week worth of groceries. Come and have breakfast. Akua nodded and strolled to her seat. You know you don't have to do this for me, right? You're my sister. It is my responsibility to take care of you. Naruto sat on his seat and beckoned the vampire to settle down, which she obliged. We'll cruise around the city later. The humans have quarantined this entire place fully. They will dispatch more of their soldiers and try to extirpate the monsters here. And I've inspected this place. More and more monsters are coming into this planet. I don't know what's going on, but if this keeps up, we'll have a galore of maniacs here. It seems like you're hinting me that there are already other monsters in the city, huh? The dark-haired vampire drank her soup delightfully. Do you have any idea what they are? It might give me some forewarning before we head out for war. You know what? I think you know who we're dealing with, don't you? Naruto pouted. Oh, you got me there. But wouldn't that be spoiling the fun? Fun? Your fun. For you, that is. Spoiling the fun for you. Akua smirked. That's the fun that matters. The blonde grinned. Alright, fun aside, I'll brief you through the list of enemies we'll be facing and their witnesses. Listen well and clear because I don't have the time to recite everything to you again at the battlefield. 2 hours later. Pulling out the bloody blade from a cleaved parasite, Naruto sighed and gazed bepitically at the rampage beneath the city. The humans were on crossfire, firing boundless of bullets at the opposing forces. The aliens salvaged through the midst of pandemonium, devouring the remnants of what's left of any enemies. The predators, concealing themselves in their invisible cloaks, claimed their trophies at anything that walked. As for the parasites, they simply treated anything as food. Akua groaned as she anathematized inwardly. There's too many of them. I'm starting to hate this place. All this never-ending carnage, and we're still unable to kill all of them. I don't think destroying all of these creatures is our main goal. I don't even know what we're doing. It seems like we're not facing our objective. No matter how much we kill, we're still stuck here. We need to know how to get out of this place. What should we do to get out of here? Naruto wiped his sword clean with a cloth, and the sheer sharpness of the blade sliced the fabric into pieces. Studying his watch, the blonde clicked and a holographic screen manifested. Damn, there is no progression. Akua blinked curiously and stood beside the blonde. What's that? The watch. Naruto answered emotionlessly. And it's also a gadget that can do many things. Developed by father's company and constructed for me. It usually outlines the mission's objectivity, but not this time. And no matter how many kills we made, there are no progressions. It's still at 0%. We're going nowhere. At this rate, we're not gonna make it in 1 week time. Then what should we do? It was then their location was spotted by a group of snipers and, without hesitation, they shot at them. Akua realized the inevitable and hugged her brother, defending Naruto against the shower of bullets, and the deadly projectiles pierced through the vampire's back. The blonde lost his cognizance for a moment as Akua was coughing out blood and tears cascaded along the curvature of her reddened cheeks. Caressing the vampire's delicate features with his shaky fingers, Naruto was deeply distraught and his expression was in a blank. Hey Akua-chan, what are you doing? I have to protect the one I love, don't I? Trepidation eventually melted into resentment and Naruto's glare was directed over to the nearby balcony where the assailants. Reloading their weapons, they aimed at the blonde. They had provoked the wrong demon. Gently leaning Akua against a wall, Naruto stroked her soft raven black hair, his pupils had colorized into a feral vermilion and his canine fangs extended palpably. Nobody hurts my sister. Nobody hurts my Akua-chan, don't worry, I will avenge you. Akua smiled weakly. Narinai, don't kill them. Naruto's eyes ignited into wrathful flames and his growls were inhumane. His posture was on all fours and a layer of fiery heat enclosed his frame. The snipers discharged a volley of bullets at Naruto. Before the blonde dashed forward, Akua seized her adopted brother's wrist and coughed. Narinai, don't kill them. Trust me on this. Don't hurt them. But they. The vampire placed a slender finger on the blonde's lips. Don't. The bullets that were shot at him melted instantaneously upon reaching Naruto, much to the human's consternation. Naruto was infuriated. His barbarous glare was thrown at the snipers and they weren't ready by the murderous bloodlust, their weapons were discarded by a nexus of fear and dubiety. Naruto hoisted Akua up securely into his embrace and vanished into a static blur. Paralyzed by fear, the soldiers didn't notice a few aliens were sneaking behind them. Setting up the bed, Akasha lay on it and sighed. Honey, I think it is time we discuss about that. That? Issa came out from the bathroom with simply blue pajamas and arched a brow. What's that? You know, the pink-haired vampire elder grinned cheerfully. Naru-chan's marriage. The vampire lord almost coughed out his gut and his eyes were bulged wide, even droplets of sweats had formed on his temples. Marriage? What are you talking about? Naruto is too young for that. He has a bright future waiting ahead for him. Something like marriage will only become a hindrance to him. Hindrance? Akasha was dumbstruck. Naru-chan deserves some peace for his own sake. Hey, just so you know, I have already enlisted Naruto into Harvard University. Issa pointed a finger at the ceiling and smiled proudly. Harvard? You mean the university within the human realms? I've heard it's the best in the entire globe. That's right. Issa sat beside his wife and grinned. And my son is the best of all bests. After his graduation, he will officially become a member of the company and aid me in ensuring the expansion of the monopoly I've established. He is the shining beacon of hope. I was right to adopt him as my son. I will not let anything tarnish his potential. Until he has fully reached adulthood, marriage will not be considered. You've gone from impossible to infreaking sanity. Akasha exclaimed. He's just a boy. He's barely 13 and you want him to attend to a university meant for adults. Are you listening to what you're saying? And what's this? You want him to take over your company once his studies are over? Are you out of your mind? Issa stroked his chin and shrugged. Nope. Last I checked my mind is still in. Anyway, I envision him to become the CEO of my. No. Absolutely not. You may be the former Dark Lord and the strongest vampire since our ancestry, but I will not permit your tactless endeavor to go on any further. Akasha crossed her arms and puffed her cheeks. He will not go to any university. In fact, I will recommend him to my friend's school. Your friend? As in that Mikagami who has that set of creepy eyes. This is outrageous. He is creepy and the school he runs will be downright creepier. The vampire lord sighed and massaged the pink-haired vampire elder's shoulders. You need to think this straight, dear. Look at it this way. If Naruto becomes my successor, I'll have more time for you, right? My son's future is important as well. I just don't get what you're talking about. You want a bright future for our son, yet you're refusing my ideals. Why? Because he has no childhood. Akasha retorted. It's not nice. It's not good. And I won't let it go on anymore. Issa sighed in defeat. Then what do you suggest, my beloved? Pair Neri-chan up with one of our daughters. The vampire lord's eye twitched. Maybe pair him up with two of our daughters. What do you think? Akasha practically squealed at her thoughts. Do? Issa swallowed hard. Why our daughters? They'll be fair maidens until I say otherwise. I won't let them marry someone like Neri-chan. The vampire elder finished angrily for her husband. I didn't say that. Issa's volume was lowered significantly however. You're racist. I'm not. The vampire lord argued. I'm proud to have Naruto as our son. Akasha turned around and sniffed. Then why do you refuse their marriage? Because they're just brother and sisters. You know better than I do. Akuha-chan, Kalua-chan and Morgan-chan are competing for Neri-chan's affection. In a few years' time, Moka-chan, Lilith-chan and Cocoa-chan will be doing the same thing too. And I don't see any wrong in that. He's a good cook. He's responsible, unlike the teenagers nowadays. He's family-orientated. He's smart and kind. He's handsome as well. Akasha smiled brightly. And most importantly, he cares for this family a lot. He's the perfect husband, honey. I can't trust any guys more than I trust Neri-chan. With him, I feel my girls are safer than heaven. Issa deadpanned. It is true that Naruto is one of a kind but at the end of the day, he's not a vampire. Racist. Akasha pushed her husband away and threw her blanket over her head. I'm not talking to you unless you stop with that discrimination, you bigot. Bigot? Me? Issa sighed. How am I a bigot? Unbelievable. Totally unbelievable. I just have no faith on. On who? Neri-chan. The pink-haired vampire elder popped her head out of her blanket and glared at her husband. He's the one. He's the perfect mate for our daughters. The vampire lord averted his eyes away. You know better than I do. Naruto still can't control Kyubi's latent powers. Even I can't control that much raw power stored within that child. Do you really think Naruto is able to mold the entirety of Kyubi's power without being overwhelmed? As long as Naruto is unable to control Kyubi's power well, he's much more of a threat to himself to my daughters. It will be risky for me to allow my daughters to marry Naruto if he can't control Kyubi's power. Then help him. You know I can't. I wish to help, Akasha. You know I do. But sometimes you can't depend on others to help you. Reliance will only become detrimental in the future. He must learn to rely on himself to master his own ability. That's why I put him in simulations in order to let him gain his own experience. I can't teach him everything. Issa sighed. That's life, my dear. He has to learn everything all by himself. That's how we grow up, right? Akasha hugged her husband tightly. I'm sorry, honey. The vampire lord chuckled. Sorry. For what? For mistaking you for all this time. I thought. You thought I have a prejudice against a fox demon courting a vampire? And that vampire happens to be any one of my daughters. That's old-fashioned. Issa grinned. I'm better than that. And I know something better that will never get old. Akasha smirked mischievously. Oh? Perhaps you wish to show me, milady? The pink-haired vampire elder jumped atop of her husband. It's going to be alright, Akuha-chan. Just stay with me. Naruto inserted pressure onto the vampire's wounds and it was magical. The bullets were extracted from the injuries and they were tossed onto the corner of the room. You lost too much blood, Akuha-chan. I'll close your wound now. Just hang on. Don't fall asleep, do you hear me? Akuha furrowed her brows and suppressed her urge to cry, the stings of the pain were unbearable. The fatal wounds inflicted on the dark-haired vampire's body ameliorated at a rapid rate. Naruto sighed as Akuha was healed, but she had lost too much blood, even his healing powers were unable to regenerate cells within her body. The blonde had no choice but to lean his neck towards the dark-haired vampire. Quick, you don't have much time, Akuha-chan. Bite me and drink my blood. It's the only way for you to get enough blood for your body. I'm not sure what will happen if you drink my blood but desperate times. But you're. Naruto gently stroked Akuha's cheeks with his finger and smirked. Don't worry. I'll be fine. Now do it. Hesitatingly, the vampire sank her fangs into her adopted brother's neck, sucking the sweet essence from Naruto's blood. It was so delicious and irresistible that Akuha couldn't stop drinking the delicious blood. In the process, her hormones level that dictated her lascivious desires were surfacing as she felt aroused by Naruto's presence. She felt her heartbeat throbbing at an uncontrollable pace, and her promiscuous intents that she had tried to repress for years were surfacing. She couldn't subjugate her lustful temptations any longer, her thirst was fulfilled, but her desires emptied. The blonde knew something was not right when Akuha ceased drinking and was starting to grind her pelvis against his. The vampire panted and her eyes scintillated prurience as she licked the remaining traces of Naruto's blood off from the edge of her lips. You don't know how long I yearn for this day to come, Naruto-sama. Naruto-sama. Naruto chuckled nervously. Since when did start calling me that? I've always wanted to call you that. The vampire started to lick the blonde's neck erotically and whispered huskily into his ears. I know you're a good man, Naruto-sama. You always try to protect us, always care for us. You're always there for us, for me, more than father and more than my own mother. You know what that means to a girl, right? Huh? Akua giggled. Still acting clueless, huh? You know that's what makes you so cute about this whole affair. The blonde swallowed. Affair? Interesting choice of words. Akua-chan, why don't I leave here and give you some air to cool your mind? Oh, my mind is very cool, I can ascertain that. Akua grinned and started planting soft kisses on Naruto's lips. And I can ascertain you one thing, my beloved Naruto-sama. I'm gonna make you mine. So this part ends here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, so quickly like this video for second part of this series. And comment down below your thoughts about this series. And now it's time for me to go, bye.